All right, let's just jump right in. AI is turning education on its head, right? And it's kicking up this huge debate. So today, we're going to cut through the hype, look at what the actual data says, and explore a whole new way of thinking about all this. And really, it all comes down to this one question, doesn't it? Is AI this incredible, revolutionary teacher that's going to change everything for the better? Or is it just a dangerous shortcut? A way to get the answers without doing the actual work. I love this quote here from Mark Sparvel over at Microsoft. He kind of reframes the whole thing. He's saying, look, it's not this simple human versus machine battle. No. It's about how AI can actually fuel something that's, well, deeply human, conversation and dialogue. So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the big promise of AI tutors. Then we'll check out the report card, and it's a bit surprising. We'll expose a really troubling disconnect, introduce a cool new idea called menus, not traffic lights, and finally, figure out how we can all get smarter together. Okay, so let's start with the dream, the big vision. What's the best case scenario for AI in the classroom? Well, it's this idea of a tireless, creative partner for every single teacher and a personal, infinitely patient tutor for every student everywhere. And this isn't some far-off fantasy. It's already happening. We're seeing data that shows educators are already leaning on AI as a pretty powerful assistant. I mean, think about it. Almost a third of them are using it to brainstorm lesson plans. That's huge. That's countless hours of prep time just gone. And that time, it can be poured right back into the stuff that really matters, like mentoring and actually connecting with students.
Okay, but here's where the story takes a turn. When we start looking at how this all affects student outcomes, things get, well, they get a lot more complicated. The AI report card is in, and honestly, it's got a pretty surprising twist.
And this is it. This is the core paradox that one recent thesis uncovered. On the one hand, yeah, students using AI are actually getting better grades. That sounds great, right? A clear win. But, and this is a big but, that exact same engagement is linked to lower critical thinking skills. So what does that mean? It means students might be getting the right answers, but they're not learning how to ask the right questions in the first place. And look, this isn't just a hunch or a feeling. It's a real, statistically significant number, a negative correlation of 0.202. That number, it represents a very real trade-off. We're getting better performance in the short term, but it seems to be at the expense of one of the most important skills for the long term. When you zoom out and look at broader academic reviews, you get a real dose of sobriety. A big systematic review found that yes, specialized AI tutors can have positive effects, but there are some huge caveats. Like a lot of these studies are super short term, so maybe the good results are just because it's new and shiny. Plus, they often totally ignore the ethical side of things. At the end of the day, the consensus is pretty clear. AI is a supplement, not a replacement for a real live teacher. And if you thought that was complicated, buckle up. The problem gets even deeper when you realize that the main people involved here, the leaders, the teachers, the students, they're not even on the same page. In fact, it's like they're living in different realities. Just look at this. The data shows this absolutely staggering gap. You've got 82% of school leaders who think, yep, AI is totally integrated here. But then you go ask the teachers, the ones actually in the classroom, and that number drops to just 54%. That is a massive disconnect between the view from the principal's office and the reality on the ground. And it gets even wider when you ask about AI literacy. 76% of leaders say it's essential. But again, you ask the educators, only 54% agree. It's like the leaders are pointing to a destination on a map, but the teachers who are supposed to be driving the bus, well, they might not have the map or even agree that's where they should be going. And this whole disconnect thing, it even shows up in what everyone's worried about. If you look here, you'll see the top concerns for educators and leaders, and next to it, the top concerns for students. They seem kind of similar at first, but when you look closer, there's a really, really important difference. And here it is, the core of the whole misunderstanding. Teachers are worried about students plagiarizing. Students are worried about being accused of plagiarizing. See the difference? It's subtle, but it points to this massive breakdown in trust, They're talking past each other. So what's the solution? How do we fix this mess and move forward? Well, it might be as simple as changing the way we talk about it. And there's this really elegant idea that came out of the University of Sydney. They call it menus, not traffic lights. Instead of thinking of AI use as a traffic light, red light, you can't use it, green light, you can, we should think of it like a menu of options. The whole conversation changes. It's not, can I use it anymore? It becomes, okay, how should I use it for this specific task to get the most out of it? It's a total shift from being a cop to being a coach. And they actually break it down like a real menu, which I think is brilliant. You've got your entries for getting started, like brainstorming. You've got your main courses, like generating the actual text, desserts for getting feedback, and so on. For one assignment, maybe ordering the entree and the dessert is totally fine. But for another, ordering the main course, getting AI to write the whole thing is off limits because it defeats the whole purpose. It's all about making smart choices, not just having one blanket rule for everything. Now, this menu idea is fantastic for the classroom. But to really build what we'd call AI fluency, you need a plan for the whole school, the whole community. So what does that path look like? Well, the research is pretty clear. First, you have to foster open communication to close those huge perception gaps we were just talking about. You got to create spaces for people to talk about what they're worried about. You need continuous, nonstop training for everybody, teachers and students. And you have to promote collaboration across the board. And let me be clear, the stakes here are incredibly high. This isn't some abstract academic debate. We're talking about real-world jobs. A full 2/3 of leaders are now saying they wouldn't hire somebody who doesn't have AI skills. So if we fail to teach this, it's not just an educational failure, it's an economic one. So what does AI literacy even mean in the real world? It's way more than just knowing how to write a good prompt. It's about thinking like a manager, knowing when to delegate a task to AI and when to give it to a person. It's about learning to use AI like a colleague, like a junior member of your team that you have to guide and ultimately be responsible for. And this quote here, I think it just perfectly captures the ideal relationship. The student does the heavy lifting, right? They come up with the argument, they create the outline, then they partner with AI to critique it, to refine it, to polish it. The human is the architect. The AI is the super skilled assistant, which really brings us to the big takeaway here. Look, AI is getting scary good at answering our questions, so the pressure is now on us. The most valuable human skill is shifting. It's not about having the answer anymore. It's about being able to ask the perfect question. And that is both the challenge and the incredible opportunity for the future of learning.